really loved The Long Weekend. I thought it was such a
Oh.
lovely story. And I know that it was a very personal story for you. So I was wondering if you could talk about where like you end and then the character takes on a life of its own.
Um, well, I mean, the personal side, it was the catalyst was just it's kind of where we find our lead at the beginning of the movie. We find Bart at the beginning of the movie after having gone through this very tumultuous period. I had gone through a public divorce, which was weird. I lost my grandmother. I was sick for like a decade and getting over that, and then my mother had just died, and it was like this confluence of a lot of just garbage in a very short period of time.
Right.
But out of that came a lot of just wonderful, beautiful things. And during that period, I actually met a woman who became a friend, but in that period, just like was a reprieve, was a sigh, and she just had the emotional intelligence just to recognize like, oh, this guy's going through it. So she had asked some questions, but more than anything, it was just like this frenetic experience of like, sneaking into college parties after being in the hospital with my mom all day. So it was like in out of that just came this desire to tell a story of, that even in the darkest of times, there's a lot of light and levity that can come out of that. Like, cause I think for me personally, like some of the hardest times I've laughed in my life have been like at funerals, because those things are so intermixed. There's some of the most human things. It's release. It's in mourning and in loss also comes this beautiful catharsis. So I think that was the personal element to me, is like wanting to make something where even if life is terrible, which it can be a lot, there's still like so much room for hope and magic if you just allow yourself, if you let yourself into it and you take a leap of faith, which is what these characters are doing.
Absolutely. And I thought that Finn and Zoe really brought that hope and magic to the screen. How did you find them? And did you like do chemistry tests? Because their chemistry was wonderful. It really carries,
Yep.
their story.
I knew Zoe a little bit beforehand, and but as soon as she did an audition early on, and I was immediately like, just stop everything. This is our lady. She's so compelling. She's so fantastic. And I knew Finn's work, but I didn't know him at all. And we just met for coffee one time. I was like, this guy seems very cool. And he like was asking the right questions. And, obviously he's, wildly talented. But then when they got into a room together the second day of shooting, because we did some rehearsals, one rehearsal before, but when they were on set together, just the life that they brought that was not on the page. And they're both they have just so many nuanced layers. Like they both are just such amazing dramatic actors, but they're goofballs. And I think you need, for me, that's my spirit. So I think you need that to tell this story. You need to have, to get into the cheese ball. Like you need that comedy and those tragedy masks, and they both have they have it both in spades.
Definitely. um, now, this is also your directorial debut, right?
Mm-hmm.
How challenging and rewarding was that for you?
Both a ton. It was wonderful. It was like, I'm an only child. I was a latchkey kid, so like I grew up just sitting in front of the TV, just watching everything. Like every episode of Mr. Belvedere. Is that a good show? I don't know, but I watched every movie. Like I used to, on Friday nights, my dad used to take me to the video rental store because I'm old, and we'd pick up a VHS.
I'm
And
also old.
yeah,
I
so
remember
you get
that.
it. You get it. So we'd come home and I'd watch a movie, and then I'd go to bed, and then I'd get up at like the crack of dawn while they were still sleeping and watch it two more times. So to like be able to create something that will maybe be the same thing for somebody at some point in time is just the dream. It's the dream. And it's also so hard. I still wrote this 4 years ago, and I started working with our lead producer, Deanna, 3 years ago. And,
Wow.
and we shot this a year and a half ago. And now I get to talk to you. And that's amazing. But
That is amazing.
it was a long time getting here, and it was a lot of work. It was, but it's, and at the end, it does all the hard stuff. Like that's just part of the process. And that's, it goes into the stew, and it's another thing that you're grateful for because you get to end up here, and that what you've earned to get here.
absolutely. It took much longer than a long weekend, but it was worth it. I
Yes, yes.
really,
So
I really enjoyed
like
it.
a solid
Thank,
year.
thank you so much.